Hey guys, I'm back. So I just want to apologise for the current light situation. I'm sitting in front of my window and there's a lot of clouds, so it could go dark and then light again. But I'm back. I'm really excited to be back. It's been a while. A lot has happened and I'm ready to be back making videos. I'm very excited for the new year, being creative and finding different outlets, and I think YouTube and videos is really something I want to focus on this year, just because, you know, they bring me so much joy to make. So today I thought I would do like what I learnt from year 12 and high school, I guess, and more of like tips and tricks that I think are helpful, and especially navigating year 11 and year 12 in the COVID circumstances. It's just quite difficult. So I have a few things written down in my journal that I feel I want to share with you, the things that I've learnt and reflected on after graduating last year. I think I'm just gonna read them through, explain them, and just I hope that it can help in some way, and if it doesn't, that's fine. If it's just like reassuring to know someone else has experienced the same issues, or like just a more recent person that has gone through the high school system, and it's not coming from someone who hasn't been in school for 20 years. Like, it's coming from someone who has recently gone through it and understands the situation. I recently just graduated, as you know, from year 12. And I didn't do ATAR or whatever the other systems there are in Australia. I did a course called the IB, or the International Baccalaureate, which is basically a program that is very similar to ATAR. It's just you get a score that can be transferred across the world. So if I wanted to go study in America, I could if I want to, but it's just like a different structure of learning, and it, for me personally, it fit me more than the Queensland based education system did. So I actually went to a creative arts school where we did the IB. So I had a more of a focus on music than say sciences and stuff like that, but I still did a science. I did biology, and then obviously I did English, maths, what else did I do? Business. I did a language as well. So I thought I'd start with the biggest tip from me that I learned in year 11 that really helped me in year 12, and I encourage anyone who might be starting year 12 this year or starting year 11 this year, and it would be figure out what note-taking style works for each subject. So for me, I learned the hard way that in year 12 your notes are really important, and because you're recapping 2 years or sometimes 3 years worth of knowledge from year 10 to year 12 or year 11 to year 12, it's really important to have notes you can go back to relearn or just re-jog those ideas that you learned in those earlier grades. But it's really important to have like solid notes that you can actually go back to and actually can rely on to relearn. Oh, I'm just getting really bright. Rely on to relearn those topics that you might need to in nearing your final assessments. So personally for me, I found that some subjects required me to take written notes, and then some subjects I was okay with just typing. And for me, the ones that I was okay with typing was things like English, business, and like French, so the more like language heavy topics. Whereas I found that subjects such as biology and maths were a lot more like, I needed a lot more tactile writing and just like notebooks with images and notes and stuff like that. But obviously with sciences, it really depends on what science you're doing and if you're doing a science at all. So as I've said, I did biology, and biology is both very word heavy and also very like diagram heavy. So personally for me, my notes I did were like summary notes of each little topic, then like what's the word, like little diagrams and like images, because that's the way that helps me learn, and so I just use those images and diagrams to help me. And actually I'll go find my biology book and show you like an example of what I did, because I feel like I'm not really making sense. So I'll go find them and I'll come back and show you. So don't mind the condition these books are in, they've obviously seen better days. This is my year 11 book and this is my year 12 book, and you can actually see a very vast difference in my notes from the beginning of year 11 to the end of year 12, where I realized that I actually needed to make my notes interesting and easy to look at, because obviously like I really needed these solid notes for my study rather than having to go back near the final exam to relearn every single topic I've ever done. So I also just want to say this book has water damage, so you will be able to see that. Unfortunately, it was a very sad day when that happened, especially because after I started putting lots of effort into these notes, it was quite painful to see that most of them got really bad water damage. But as you can see at the beginning, like my notes were very basic. Like, sorry, that's the water damage there, but like there was very little that could actually like help me. There wasn't much color, like there was just kind of scribbles down of what happened in class. But it's really about finding what works for you, what topic like suits more of this type of note taking, and which topic suits more of like the typing or just basic note taking. And I'll just show you the final result of my biology. So this is my year 12 one, so this is when I really realized that I should really start putting effort into my notes, because they're actually really important. So this one is for digestion. So don't mind the drawing, I'm not an artist, I did my best. So this is like digestion. So you can see it's quite note heavy, but it's also got color and it's also got a diagram, and that just really helped me. And it's like more engaging than something that's just quite boring to look at, and you're not gonna want to look at a page for this long if it literally just looks like something like this. And yes, there is color, but it's just not, it won't really help you. But obviously this does take a lot of time, and it really depends on how you learn. Like obviously I kind of went a bit overboard with some things, but for me that's how I learned, so that's what really helped me. And so to my year 11 friends out there, if you're watching this, I encourage you to put more effort and time into your notes now in year 11, so then you don't have to spend so much time in year 12 relearning things or rewriting notes. You can spend your time in year 12 just revising and looking back over these, and you know, they're interesting to look at. For year 12s, I would really encourage you to start this process earlier off. See, I started this process in about term 3, which is a bit later, because I had a later realization like, oh, I should have really done that in year 11. So yeah, I encourage you to just find what note-taking style works for you and what works for each subject. So as I said, my biology ones, I wanted them to be colorful, I wanted them to have diagrams, because that's just how I needed to learn in that subject. And for maths, it was a lot less color and a lot less diagrams, because obviously you don't really need diagrams. So for me, for my maths, I just put like, if we ever learned a new topic or a new skill or a new formula or something, if we did it in class, I would literally write down like steps on how to just do it, because maths is not my strong point, and I knew that if I learned something in year 11 and had to go back to it in year 12, I really needed it to be easy for me to access and understand quickly, rather than having to go back into a year's worth of notes and study to relearn a whole topic. So for me, I would do like step 1 to step 5, or how many steps it would take to use that formula. I would like really obviously write out the steps. And yes, it kind of feels stupid at that time that you're doing it, because you're like, oh no, I remember. And honestly, you won't remember, because it is such a long period of time and you're just continuously learning so much each week or each semester. So I encourage you to make really clear, concise notes in all your subjects, so it's just easier to come back to in year 12 when you really don't have that time to relearn every single topic you've ever done across the 2 years. My second point sort of focuses on the amount of time you spend studying and just like the burnout you start to feel in year 12. So for me personally, going into year 12, I was already so over it before we even started. And I think it's just important to know that like you don't have to spend 3 extra hours at home studying stuff, and like if that works for you, that is completely okay. But if you're not mentally up to that, you don't have to feel like that's the only right thing to do. I learned that the smaller amounts that you feel like you can do when you really aren't up to studying for long periods of time are almost as important as those long periods of time you spend studying. Like, great, if you're feeling like studying for 3 hours after school, like that's great. But if you finish school and you're feeling tired or you're not really feeling up to anything, but you know you should do something or you feel like you should do something, even if that means like making a summary book, re-going over things that you feel like you need, even for half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, like if you continuously doing that every day, that's a lot of progress, and it like accumulates and really adds up. And that's a lot more than doing trying to do 3 hours of work every single afternoon, sitting at your desk or wherever you do your homework and just looking at your page, not really absorbing anything in because you're just not in that correct mindset. And it just makes you feel a lot more stressed, and it's just really not worth it. You shouldn't push yourself to do that because it's the right thing to do, because study is really an individual process, and it's what works for you and how you learn and how your brain works. I definitely did not feel up to doing 3 hours a day after school because the school days are just so long, and then you add, you know, pressures of being a teenager on top, or the pressures of COVID. Like, everything was very unstable in year 11 and year 12 when I went through, just because you didn't know if you were going to be at school the next day due to COVID and lockdowns and all that. But I think it's just really important to cut yourself some slack and to not feel like if you're not studying 3 hours a day, you're failing, because that's not true. Every little bit counts, and I think that's a really important thing to understand. Like, even if you're just doing like 10 questions or reading through notes, the small bits that sometimes feel insignificant are really not. Every single tiny bit of revision that you can do is better than just trying to sit at your desk for 3 hours and stare at your book, not really taking anything in because you're mentally not in that right space. And that just makes you 10 times stressed because you're not learning and you're just wasting time stressing about the fact that you can't learn. Listen to your brain and your body and just go, what do I feel like I can do this afternoon without pushing myself to the point where I won't be productive? Take the time for yourself first. Relax, rewind after school, have a shower, have a time on the internet, talk to a friend, because it's really important to have a break between the 6-hour school day and then your study time at home. So I just really encourage you, anyone really at school, to have time for yourself at home between coming back from school and studying. And if you just want to get home and just go straight into study and then have a bigger period of time at the end to just relax before bed, that's fine. You just have to do what works for you and not feel guilty about putting yourself first, because year 12 is hard enough. You just have to cut yourself some slack and realize that although school feels like the biggest thing in your world, because it is, it's not the be all and end all, and it's really important to put yourself first. My final piece of advice, and the biggest thing I would tell to year 12s, is to just, and like I know everyone says this, I know everyone's like, it's the last year, make the most of it, but it's really easy to get caught up in, well, we have final exams, I need to get that grade, I need to get that certain number, I need to be a doctor, I need to get into this course. Like, it's so easy to focus on the end goal and the end result and get caught up in that, and then you miss out on all the good things like formal and graduation and meeting new people. And while not only taking time for studying, you really need to take time for yourself and for your social life and to make those memories, because this year it only happens once in your life, and you only really get the experience to graduate from high school once. And I know every teacher says that, and every parent says that, and all the graduates say that, but it's really so true. Just really cherish your time at school. And like, get to know your teachers, like, have a bit of fun. Like, it's so important to have a healthy balance between study and work and school and scores and memories and friendships and just good times, because like, you're not gonna get the score you want, or you're not gonna be able to have a healthy mental state at the end of high school and not burn out without having the balance of those friendships and the memories and the formal and all the fun little things you get as being a senior in high school. So I just really encourage you to not feel guilty about having fun. I can't stress enough how important it is to make the most of every single opportunity. I know I said the last one was the final, but this is just a quick one. But it's the biggest takeaway that I've learned is a piece of advice my principal said. You need to feel uncomfortable in your life, otherwise you're not going to grow. You can't experience anything without feeling uncomfortable. And honestly, in year 12, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel stressed. You're going to feel overwhelmed. And you're going to feel quite unsure. Because it's a big year. Like, you're figuring out who you are as a person. You're figuring out what you think you might want to do after school. And then you're losing a very large constant in your life that you've had since you were 4, 5. But the biggest thing that I tried to remind myself throughout the year was it's okay to be uncomfortable. And it's okay to not know what you're doing. We're so young and we have so much time, and you just need to be in the present and make those memories. Like I said, you're allowed to feel like this is the biggest thing, because for most people it usually is the biggest thing that they've experienced so far in their life, and it's a really big step. And like I keep saying, just cut yourself some slack. Like, it's really important to just live in the moment, make those memories. Like, some of my favorite moments that I've experienced so far in my life have occurred in year 12, and I'm just so glad I didn't get so caught up in the academic side of high school to where I missed out on those memories. So yeah, I hope I didn't go on massive tangents and bore you. I really hope something in here sticks or something in here is helpful, but I believe in you. You've got this, and make the most of it. Feel uncomfortable, join that club, go to that person's house. Like, do what feels right for you, because high school is an individual experience. But anyway, that's my rambling done. If you have any questions, pop them down below and I can hopefully answer them. So see ya, goodbye, have a great week, a great day, and don't forget to cut yourself some slack. Mwah.